Hello and welcome along to the VMTV Rugby Pod. Joined by me today is Jenny Murphy and Fiona Hayes. Girls, the Six Nations got up and running last weekend. Ireland fell defeat against France, but did pretty well. Fiona, I should go to Jenny actually first because she was there. Jenny, you got home safe. It seemed like a great trip, did it?
It was an absolutely cracker trip. I think, playing in France is a dream, and also kind of supporting the girls when you're over there. They really know how to get behind the home team. Unbelievable singing, well hydrated, and shenanigans aplenty. So, and it wasn't a bad match either. So, no complaints from me anyway on the supporter side of things. Would have loved the victory, but can't have everything.
Yeah, Fiona, just on that, you come into commentary for the next match with me. Buzzing even with the defeat, you felt it was a bit of a new Ireland, so to speak, in inverted commas, after the WXV. They defended well, and it was against a good French team.
Yeah, Stu, I think the biggest disappointment last year for me obviously was with the way they finished things, but even in that last match against Scotland, they finished with 40 missed tackles, so that was absolutely gut-wrenching for a national team, to have that amount of missed tackles. So I was absolutely delighted with the improvement in defence for one, especially you can see Danaher's print on it. I know he was on media duty this week and he talked that was a huge area that the girls took delight in improving and getting better. So to see them, yes, it's disappointing to lose to France, but from where we finished off the Six Nations, I know there was a couple of XV games in between, but this Six Nations is the bread and butter, and where we finished off last year to that performance against France, I was really buzzing coming in for a chat, Stu.
And Jenny, Aoife Wafer, Nicole Foley, who else did you like out there? Who do you feel really stood up on the day?
There's a few people. I thought Neve Jones continued like a solid performance. She's an absolute tackling machine. I think ended up top tackler from round one, sitting at 23 tackles, and she just kept on going. Like, there's a serious motor on there, and was really impressed by. I thought Aoife Dalton as well did really well, dogged, hardworking. There's a few areas. Brittany Hogan too, again, had some nice little breaks in play and just like made herself known around the park. So those are the ones that kind of stood out for me as well. Thought they did a really good job, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they kind of put a stamp on things and build from that game against Italy now at the weekend.
Fiona, the Lineout maybe caused a few problems. How do they sort that out this week in a couple of days?
Oh God, Stu, the age-old question. Look, yeah, they'd 9 lineouts. I think they lost 4, which is pretty bad percentage. And especially with those starter plays, and even Jenny mentioned a lot of her own teammates there in Old Belvo. She was getting them a shout out there, but
can't help it, man. They played well. It's just they look good in black and white, but they also played pretty well in green feet.
Jenny, did you play for Belvo? I didn't know that. Did you?
Yeah. I still tug out if the knees allow me to for my sins. I'm definitely in the late winter of my career. But I know good play when I see it, so I'm not afraid to praise the club teammates as well.
Get the Belvo shirt on. Back to the serious stuff.
Yeah, you can rip into your Bose teammates if you like, Hayes. But I'm
there's no none there. We'll leave it there.
Yeah. Neve Jones isn't rocking the Belvo gear yet, so that's
No, I'm only winding you up, but just even with Dalton, I was just saying, like, the starter plays, I'd love to see those launch plays off a line out. I know the maul is strong, but it just seemed when Ireland went towards the back, there was like miscommunication on throw movement. It was all a little bit off. And I know, and I was even talking to some people coming in to this game in France, and it was definitely an area that they'd worked a good bit on. So it would be disappointing. I think, Stu, they'll probably just have to go back to basics. As I said, it wasn't like it was literally overthrows. It was mix up in calls, the movement. So maybe shorten the line out. France are excellent defensively, I will say that. But if you shorten it, you only give them one opportunity maybe to get a defensive jumper in the air. So I think Ireland will have to look at speed on the ground, a little bit less movement, and just get in sharp up and guaranteed ball.
Jenny, do you see many changes, or do you think these combinations need to have a full Six Nations, so to speak, to really gel, or is it totally results based?
I'd imagine in the like 9 to 13 there'd be kind of some stickiness, but maybe there might be some shifts a little bit in the back three. Only thing I would say is I'd really love to see Bevan Parsons get on the ball earlier. Like she got the ball, but she had such little space to work with. Like if you've got a weapon like that at your disposal, you need to be able to utilize it well. And she didn't get as much space as I think she needs in order to do some damage. So it'd be just like similar to what Fee's saying, like you want the set piece to be clean, accurate, but you get them to your danger players as early as possible.
I was going to say straight away. Is that easier said than done, Jenny?
Yeah. It's easier, especially against France. Like they put on a lot of pressure, and like it kind of fractured a little bit in the midfield too. So it's you need to get it can't be wobbly. If your set piece is a little bit wobbly, you have to go to something really simple as opposed to getting it out wide, because you're already losing meters by if it's a slightly dodgy pass from 9 to 10, or the ball's weighted a little bit in the air. That's 1 or 2 meters that France have gained defensively, and you've just got less space and less time to work with. So it's boxing smart, but then when given the opportunity, get the ball to the danger women, and also go looking for it. Like you'd see in the men's game, like Keenan in particular, he goes looking for the ball constantly all the time, and saying that like Ireland men's team, they have the ball a lot, but we need to be kind of doing that the women's game as well. Like get those players on the ball as early as possible and then show support. Like France had over 20 offloads in that game, or to Ireland's 4. When we were making those offloads, we seemed confident enough to do it. We were doing damage. We were making breaks in play. It's about flooding those channels and kind of taking advantage of a scramble defence that hopefully we'll see a little bit more of against Italy, because I don't think defensively Italy are going to be as strong as France were at the weekend.
And as far as game plan, Fiona, going into that French game, Nicole Foley was clearly told by Scott Beeman to kick the ball. Like, it was pretty obvious. Do you expect them to move it, or will it still be a lot of kicking?
No, I think that's something they probably would have looked at from last year and spoke about. And we will see a bit more, I think, moving of the ball. But I think defensively, anything inside in the 22, maybe even 30 meters out from the line, they'll be kicking. I think they had 28 kicks, and it was 25 of them were long. A couple of them off the pitch, but their general thing was, let's kick it, let's get our defensive system together, our line speed up and go up, and let's try and get the turnover. And I think they will stick with that system, especially against Italy, because if you do that against France, and you kind of come out, yes, they didn't come out on top, but come out with a somewhat positive performance, if they can bring the same aggression defensively and bring the same line speed. And I have to say, I was so impressed with Fowley's kicking, especially in those pressure relieving moments. She was absolutely superb. I would imagine they had it in the plan to just put Dana on at half time and kind of give them both a rattle to see, maybe who will start this week, maybe not. But I felt like I thought they could have got a little bit more out of Fowley. I know she's only coming back off of injury as well, so I would have liked to see her on the pitch a little bit longer. I thought she was absolutely outstanding with her kicking game. Dana brings a lot as well, so it's good to have that interchange on the bench. But I would imagine, based on performances from last week, Fowley and Dana both are there because of their kicking game as well. It's exceptional, and it's in the women's game in Ireland. Let's be honest, Jenny, there aren't a lot of players that can turn around your back three on attack when like from inside their own half especially, and these two players have the ability to do that. And once you can get that defensive system working and up and putting that pressure on and confidence building game by game, I think as it goes on we might see more play around the halfway mark than we saw in that France game. But I definitely think they'll start the game similarly.
Jenny, you know Dan O'Brien from your time at, I think you played for Belleville, but the whole the battle between the two, I know Dan has been injured, but she's still very young. Where do you see her early on in her career? Would you have expected her to have progressed a wee bit more? or do you think now is about right where she is?
Like, I think I had the luxury of coming into an Ireland squad that had a lot of experience, both like around me, both left and right. So I was able to mess up and make mistakes and learn as I go, and like even on the pitch, be coached by some outstanding players, like likes of like Lynn Cantwell, for instance, who would have played insider for years. When Dana came into the fold, it was a lot of other similarly inexperienced players around her, and she's going in at 10. It was so hard. So I think where she is now, where she's got an experienced player like Nicole who has played a lot in this role, they're only going to learn from each other. And when you're battling it out and trying to get a starting jersey, it only does you good. Like myself and Grace David for years, we're trying to fight for that 12 jersey. Grace was probably the player that helped me become as good as I could have been. And I'd like to think she'd say the same. So this is only good, this kind of competition within camp. And they're both different types of 10, so they can push each other in different ways. They both have a fantastic boot, a powerful boot. Like Dana's left foot is something that like I think we can definitely see a little bit more of. But with that as well, you need to have the like support around her to help her kind of grow and give her opportunities to mess up. It's so hard if you're only playing Six Nations and Celtic Cup, and that's where you kind of learn game management and experience. I think the best thing that you can give these players is more time playing the game, whether that's with AIL over in the Premiership. Otherwise, so no, I think last year was a really tough year to come into the fold. Like we kind of alluded to at the start, it was not the nicest rugby to watch. Some really tough results, and not the prettiest games. This is, I think, somewhere we can kind of start to see a little bit more growth, and more confidence from the girls as well. Like your first Six Nations, uh, you're a bag of nerves, and now like there's the imposter syndrome that like a lot of players get, including myself. Hopefully that's shaken off and you can just kind of crack on and take it game by game.
And Fiona, easy to say from the outside, but you're a coach yourself. It feels like a massive game for Scott Beeman, even though it's only a second one in charge in a Six Nations campaign. Or is it like, hold off here? Yes, the result matters, but if they lose, it'll still be fine and they're on this journey.
No, I think, let's be honest, I think this is a huge game for him. Yes, they are on a journey, and probably if they did lose the game, it won't have much of an outcome on his coaching journey with this team. But I feel on the other side of things, if they can get the win, especially with how the last couple of years have gone, that he knows what this group of players are about. He knows he's tapped in to try and get the best out of them. And a home game against Italy, I watched Italy last week as well. I was doing it for Virgin against England, and I really believe that Ireland have the ability to really go after the Italians. So I think for him coming in, this is a huge opportunity for him and the squad to look at those areas from the last game and really, really get into the RDS and I suppose go after Italy, because we haven't seen them do that in a couple of years. Yes, they defended brilliantly against France, but I'm looking forward to this game now on Sunday and seeing those connections in attack, because I've seen some of those players, Aoife Dalton in particular, outstanding 13. Eve Higgins, I've watched her on the 7th circuit, her skill set, everything is immense. Jenny spoke about Bevan. We have the talent in the back line in particular, we just need to get them ticking, and I think this Italy game could really kickstart something for this squad.
And Jenny, it looks like Sam Monaghan's going to be fit. Like she's one of the focal points in this team when she gets going.
Oh yeah, so that's a massive lift for the girls. Like not only like the leadership that she can bring to the side, but also like her ball carrying ability, and again just general work rate. I think she's always been up there in terms of like top stats. So yeah, it's brilliant to see the likes of herself, and then with co-captain Tricky alongside her too. It's only going to be kind of positive getting her back on the pitch and seeing how she runs out.
Fiona, what about the Italian team? Yes, a red card England got against them, but they were blown away, as most teams are in the Six Nations. But they have a few players. Did any of you play against the likes of Stefan and Rigoni, or am I not going there? You're both young, aren't you?
I'm not telling you my age, Stu. How dare you? You're always trying to get it out of me. No, but I have been following their career, and Rigoni in particular. What a player, what a character to have. She was like Jenny. I'd say she was a bit nuts. Always trying to. I've a few stories of Jenny, but I'll leave that for another day.
Hold on a second, Fiona.
So I've chucked you under the bus, now you're chucking her under the bus.
There's a lot of pointing around here, Hayes. And if there was anyone that's a little bit like marbles loose, it's not me and it's not Stu on this call. There's evidence. I've got photographic evidence. I will bring it along next time. I have no problem throwing you under the bus.
Go away. But look, I think you spoke about that red card as well, and unfortunately for Solari, it's a broken leg, and I think herself and Rigoni over the years, Solari and Rigoni have built up a really good partnership in 12 and 13. So that's going to be used for them. Stefan at 9, they have some really good players. Tunisia even in the second row. So there's some really good talent there. I wasn't playing around them, but they're a team that I suppose have grown together. So Ireland, I feel like, are on the start of their journey. I'm not talking about professionalism or anything like that, but I'm talking about a solid squad that, it's the same girls that are getting picked in each year round as they enter tournaments and building those connections between 9, 10. Yes, there's been a few changes, but I think Italy, in terms of that, for the last maybe 3-4 years, have really built up those connections, 12, 13, 9, 10, and how they play the game. So they're a step ahead of Ireland, but I think just Ireland's ability and belief, if they can go into this game and come off the back of how they finished the last game with the 2 late tries, I'm really looking forward to it, because these young guns in this Irish team, I've seen it all year round, and there's such immense talent there, and they just need to start believing in themselves as well, and this could be the game to kickstart it.
Jenny, we're obviously focusing on Ireland, but which way do you see Italy will be coming across? What type of game plan do you think they will go after if they see Ireland's defence has been very good against France? How do they look to break that?
I think I'll be looking at something a little bit similar in terms of what France did, particularly in the first half of Ireland, of give it to Ireland and then put pressure on them. I think Italy held England for the first 10 minutes before kind of the floodgates started opening up a little bit, even when England were down to 14 on the park. But I felt that with France, they kicked to Ireland and then they made Ireland try and play out of their own half. And at times, Ireland struggled to gain momentum and yards when they were put under pressure, when they had when they were facing decent organised line speed. I think that's what Italy will probably bring to the RDS at the weekend. Put pressure on Ireland, try and get them to turn, and then that blue wall coming up and seeing how they handle the pressure. I think Ireland, though, will have a little bit of time to tidy up a few of those areas where maybe we could have sat a little bit further back, had a little bit more depth to our play, and then boxed a bit smarter in terms of exits as well. So being real decisive and having a bit more kind of communication with their 9s and 10s in terms of what they wanted to do, and also that line speed. Sometimes it was a little bit staggered when Fowley was returning and putting boot to ball. That kind of green wall was slightly fractured. So there's a few things that you can kind of tidy up. But I think if I was Italy, that's how I would approach it. Their set piece, it's really tricky to kind of assess set piece against England, because they're such a powerhouse. And a lot of these girls have such experience, and they're big girls as well. So that's another area that I wouldn't be surprised if Italy went after, because Ireland were a bit shaky there, particularly in that line out.
Last couple before we move on to the other teams. And I haven't actually asked either of you, because you haven't been on the pod, just talking about the Six Nations. Fiona, what is an overall bigger question? What's a success for Ireland in this championship? Do you see it as, yes, they won 3 wins, but as 1 or 2? Would you say that's a 7, 8 out of 10?
Yeah, I think they obviously want to win the 3 home games. That's what you'd be planning with your players, and that's the kind of confidence you'd want to install in them. But I feel like if they were to come off the back of last year, 2 wins would be very good for this team. I think, especially on how they finished the Six Nations. They were, and the way they speak about the hurt that it caused, and what they felt in that. So yes, they went on and won the WX3, but I feel like this was always back in the back of their heads. I can't wait for the next Six Nations, because they know that the people of Ireland, it's televised. They know people are watching. There's a great interest. We love rugby. We love the Six Nations here in Ireland, and I feel like they've been waiting to go on this. So I think 2 wins would be definitely a good buzz for this team to kick on. Obviously, if they could get the 3rd win and finish 3rd, that would mean they're guaranteed World Cup qualification, and that would be absolutely huge for them. But I think 1 or 2 wins at home will kind of kickstart their belief and their confidence in themselves.
Would you go along with that, Jenny, or which way do you see it?
I pretty much bang on the same as Fee. I think they can be aiming for two wins, which is going to be tough. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. And if they get 3, that'd be magic. I think even just the way the layout of the Six Nations is for us this year, like France and England are the giants, and it's France and England away from home. So I think they're ones where you want to put in a performance. But getting a victory in Twickenham with I think Sophie Ellis-Bextor is playing Bextor. He's playing a half time.
Oh yeah,
your favourite, Jenny.
Yeah.
Your favourite.
So,
yeah, she loves it.
Break a tune. Break us in a tune there.
Yeah.
Come on, Jenny, murder on the dance floor.
But I think it'd be two games, something that they can definitely go for and be gunning for. And then if they get the 3, that's going to be a cracker Six Nations for the girls.
Last one on it, Fiona. If they get 2, they wouldn't automatically qualify for the World Cup, but it would stand them in better position, correct?
Yeah, so they need to get into that WXV2 is where the qualification then will happen from there, and with the teams probably you presume already qualified. So just say for instance it was we'll just pick Scotland, England and France. England and France have already qualified. Scotland will have gone through then because they finished 3rd. So anyone in WX2, so if they can get into that competition, and the other teams, it will all come down to mathematics and who is qualified, but the chances of automatic qualification after that are exceptionally high if they can finish in that 4 or 5 position especially.
Well, you led us on nicely there to Scotland. They started their campaign in Cardiff. We did that match. What a game.
Yeah.
Not sure what was going on at the end with Wales kicking it out, but they impressed us massively, didn't they, Fiona?
Yeah, just a brilliant style of rugby as well, Stu. We were roaring and shouting in the comms booth. We were really getting into it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but not just because obviously you love to see Scotland win as well, but just the sheer way they went about their business. Even Corinne Grant on the wing was superb. Their back 3 in general was brilliant. And pre-game, I was talking about Jasmine Joyce and kind of the threats that Wales had. But I think Scotland over the last few years, especially Nielsen at 10 as well, have been just tipping away nicely and building something good. And I just thought their set piece was excellent. Their strike plays, how they approached attack. They had no issue with going wide off first phase. They really kind of wanted to stretch that Welsh defence, and it just made for exciting rugby. And especially the way Nielsen plays as well at 10, she'll chip it in over the top. She just tries anything in her kicking game. So I was super impressed with them.
And a former centre, Jenny, Emma Orr, she's called, isn't she? The outside centre for Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
She's only 20 as well. It's ridiculous.
Really, really comfortable with ball in hand, solid skill set, decent bit of pace. And like even last year, I know like some results didn't go Scotland's way, but I think they're like 6 wins now under their belt. Really solid momentum leading into next game, which is going to be a toughie. But yeah, like I think for me, they were probably the nicest team to watch when they had ball in hand. Really impressive. Do the simple things well. And if like the simple things are done with pace and like it's sharp, you just show you can do a lot of damage. Like Cardiff, getting a win in Cardiff, it's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, they were impressive. And I think if Ireland were, again, we're talking about those two wins, I'd be probably eyeing up Italy and Wales at the moment more than the Scotland one. I think that it's going to be a trickier. I'd love to be proven wrong, but we'll see.
Fiona, is it too soon for Scotland to beat France in Edinburgh? Just as even Rachel Malcolm said, by the time she retired, she wanted to push into that second place, but too soon this weekend, yeah.
I think so. I think just where France are at, I even felt watching them against Ireland. Yes, Ireland were good, but I always felt if it was a closer game that France had the ability to lift it up another gear. They didn't have to in that game. I think Scotland will push them a little bit harder, especially playing them in Scotland as well. It's no easy task, but I think France just have that little bit more up front. Pack wise, physicality wise, set piece, and yes, I felt like they were a little bit in cruise control against Ireland, and yes, they came out at times and put some really nice scores away. But as a French coach, I think I'd be going back reviewing that game. Yes, they got a big win, but I wouldn't be too happy with how they defended near the end of the game as well. So I think they would have worked harder this week. And they know that their biggest game is coming up, I suppose, at the end of the Six Nations at home to England. But they'll be very much aware of what Scotland did last week. So I think we'll see a better French performance. And I think it's just a step too far for Scotland right now.
Elsewhere on Saturday, we have England against Wales. Looking at Wales, Jenny, Eleanor Snowsill's obviously retired. Flaky George has come into 10. Such a big boots to fill. And like I was actually... what no one cares what I think. I was a wee bit disappointed by what Wales produced.
Do I care?
Yeah, it's good.
I care, Steve.
And maybe my mum and dad, that's irrelevant. But to fill those boots of Eleanor Snowsill, I just felt their attack looked a wee bit flat. Wales, is that fair enough to say, or did you see it differently?
It was really frustrating to watch. They'd get into the right positions and then do silly things, or again, I think maybe looking at it now, like having a calm head to just slow stuff down. I think you don't always need an increase in tempo. Sometimes slowing it down and kind of picking the right options and being smart about what channels you're trying to pick off, and where you see vulnerabilities and kinks is where you kind of go after. But it was just like strewn with errors, and I'm not like Scotland had to work hard to work their way up the pitch, and they didn't make it easy for themselves at times. But I think Wales's review of the game on Scotland now will be a tough one. Like those Monday video sessions, there's going to be a few players that aren't going to be happy individually with the decisions that they made, but also like bigger picture wise, there were some choices that like didn't make sense. Again, it's really easy for us now to be on our arse talking about it when we've got like cushy seats, and we're not there on the day. But when there's a few of those consistently popping up a little bit throughout the 80 minutes, you're kind of like, okay, well, you need to kind of look at yourself, and they'll be like, this can happen again, because it costs them the game.
What about England then, Fiona? Are they just going to steamroll this? Wales are looking for a bit of a riposte and response, but if they can catch England in any way cold, even in the first half, which way do they do it?
Yeah, I don't think this Welsh squad, from what I saw last week, have the capabilities of catching England just now. England, another team that I suppose would review their first half. Yes, there was a red card, but wouldn't be happy with how they played. But they had the ability then to come out at halftime and absolutely run over Italy. So physicality wise, I think, Stu, you alluded to it there. Wales were just flat. They were flat in their forwards pack carrying. They were flat lot in backline attack. They just couldn't find any space. Yes, Scotland were good, but they didn't fix that throughout the game. You know, they weren't getting over the gain line with the forward carries, and they still didn't. George didn't remove it, take it back a little step, create more space. They didn't seem to have the ability to change it mid game. So yes, they'll review the video, but I am not sure that this Welsh team can go after England in any particular area. They'll give them a crack at scrum time. They'll definitely get up in their line out. I mean, Welsh line out is superb. How they maul it, they'll try and go after them in that area, but I'm not sure I don't think they'll get the win, but I'm not sure they'll be able to dominate in any area of the game, because even England's back three, kicking game wise, England's back three are superb. You don't want to kick them the ball, because we saw in the second half against Italy what they can do with that. Up front, maybe they could go after them, and we saw England's discipline maybe let them down, but I feel like this week Wales will be just trying to concentrate on their own game, especially in attack, trying to create something a bit more depth, maybe trying to get the likes of their X Factor players, Jasmine Joyce involved. But they definitely have a bit of X Factor and Calendar as well in the back row, and I know she'll be an absolute nuisance in that English breakdown, but I'm not sure they'll be able to dominate in any area of that game, I don't think.
And generally, finally to you, France and England, still miles above or just a wee bit above, or you look very bewildered there. You're not sure how to answer that one.
It's I think it's still early days in the Six Nations. At the moment, if I was to call it, I'd be like England. They're the powerhouse. They got the physicality, and France look vulnerable at times, and like a little bit sloppy, but like it's a fair, like there's a lot of new combos within that French side, so like that's to be expected. And it's also, they haven't had, like, when was the last time some of those players played together? But yeah, like I things that are advantageous to France, it's being played in France. So yeah, so that's like huge. Like the French crowd are they're absolutely nuts. It's unbelievable to play in that kind of atmosphere, but it's also bloody tough. But yeah, I think England didn't really get into third, fourth gear against Italy, and they were down to 13 men at one stage. So at the moment, I'd be calling it, I'd love to see France grow into the competition more. They played some really exciting rugby. They're not afraid to throw the ball around, you know, the classic jouet. So it's it's too. I'm sorry, I'm sitting on the fence here. I'd love to say it's going to be an absolute battle, but I do think that at the moment England can rack up a score, and it'll be a difference of 15 points at the moment.
With that, Stu, you're saying, sorry, am I wrong? Are you saying, are they above everyone else at the minute? Or
yeah,
is
just seeing the gap. Yeah, well, obviously they're both above Wales, Scotland and Italy, but the pair of them, do you think that gap is closed between France and England?
I'm going to call France are going to win it this year. I think there's going to be a turnaround. We didn't see their best attacking rugby, and their coaching box didn't look too happy throughout the whole thing. And she's a class act, their head coach, Gail. But I think there might be a little bit of shake up this year. And I think if not, it'll definitely be a closer game. And I'm very, very much impressed with the French set piece. England's always been good, but I think France, we talk about their scrum a lot, but I'm impressed with their line out and their variety around that as well. I think she's had a big influence there.
Well, before we go, I always do predictions with Matt and Alan, so it's the time of Jenny and Fiona for this weekend. 3 matches, 3 results. Jenny, I'm looking at you first. Who's going to win out of the 3?
Right, okay, so I'm going to say I'm going to say, we'll go Ireland for Ireland, Italy. I'm going to say England against Wales, and I'm going to call a French win.
Fiona?
I'm going to have to go the same as Jenny. I think the girls are going to get it done at home. It'll be brilliant. France, and I think French game will be a lot closer than we think, but I think France will get it done, and I think England should run away with that game against Wales.
Well, Jenny, Fiona, it's been absolutely great. Don't forget to tune in on Saturday as England take on Wales and Virgin Media too. Thanks for listening.